Hello, my name is Chris Fenton. I'm a realtor here in Port Alberni, and I'm shooting this video to talk about all the different neighborhoods about Port Alberni. So I'm hoping this will be a comprehensive guide that you can come back to and learn the pros and cons, my opinions about all the different neighborhoods in the Alberni Valley and what makes them special, which one might suit you the best. So I'll give you a little bit of my background. I've been a real estate agent since 2003, and it's getting a long time now. It's about 23 years serving the Alberni Valley. I am the CEO of a small real estate brokerage called Loyal Homes, which has high performance agents sort of serving all over Vancouver Island and BC. But I am in Port Alberni. I've been working in Port Alberni my whole life. I was born and raised in Port Alberni. So back 10 years ago, I'm going to share my screen. 10 years ago, I shot a YouTube video that was a neighborhood driving tour, and you can see it here. And it's our highest performing video. It's got 21,000 views. And basically the premise is when you're a real estate agent, one of our greatest joys is people come from out of town, they get in their car with us, and we drive them to show houses. But while we do that, we of course give them a tour of the community. So I shot this video that was simulating that, and I drove all over town, and I've had a lot of feedback over the years on it, but it's time to update it. The town has changed a lot. Port Alberni has changed a lot. And I thought that rather than doing a driving tour, technology is such that we can probably give you more information online. So I want to bring your attention to this blog article that we recently wrote, Port Alberni Neighborhood Guide, and we're going to keep this up to date every year. And it's a comprehensive guide about every single neighborhood in the Alberni Valley. So right here is the names of the different neighborhoods, and you simply click on them and you can learn about those neighborhoods. Towards the bottom, it's got a couple of things. One is a quick comparison chart. Another is it breaks down people prioritizing walkability, views, large lots, townhouses, condos. It talks about which neighborhoods are good for what you're looking for. And then finally at the bottom is a series of frequently asked questions. So we also have our neighborhood map, but I'm going to use Google Maps because I think that's probably the easiest way to explain this. So how do I want to explain Port Alberni? Well, first of all, Port Alberni is in central Vancouver Island. And it's a really cool place. It's kind of a microcosm of Vancouver Island because all the things that make Vancouver Island popular, you have them all here. We have the mountains, we have the ocean because the Alberni Inlet comes in from the west coast here and comes right up into the town. So we have the mountains, the ocean, the temperate rainforest, the lakes, and the rivers, all here in the Alberni Valley. But then we're also beautifully centrally located. You can pop on the Highway 4 over to Long Beach, Tofino, Ucluelet in an hour, 15 minutes, an hour and a half, or you can be over at the beaches in Parksville in a half an hour. The international airport at Courtenay is about an hour and 15 minutes away, and the shopping and ferries of Nanaimo are an hour away in another direction. And then, of course, the capital city and the capital region is 2.5 hours south. But we're here to talk about neighborhoods in Port Alberni. So Port Alberni is naturally divided into the city itself is divided into three sections, and it's divided by waterways. There's these ravines. The first one is Roger Creek, and the second one is Dry Creek. So this is Dry Creek, and this is Roger Creek, if you've seen my mouse. Now, that naturally divides Port Alberni into the three most common neighborhoods, which is North Alberni, which is north of Roger Creek, Central Alberni, which is between Roger Creek and Dry Creek, and then this huge area called South Alberni, which is, of course, south. So those are the main neighborhoods. Now I'll go into, then we have Cherry Creek, which is one of our rural areas right up here. And then this huge area out here is all Beaver Creek. So those are the two prominent rural areas. And then there's the Sprout Lake area, which is all the residential houses, both waterfront, and there's a ton of off-water, non-waterfront properties over there as well. So that's a general breakdown. Port Alberni used to be two towns. Back in the day, you'll hear Twin City Brewing. You'll hear that moniker thrown around. That's because we used to be Port Alberni and Alberni. And Port Alberni was the south and central part of town. And Alberni was a different city, which was the north part of town. Now we call them North Alberni, South Alberni. So let's get into it. We're going to come down the highway. You're driving in from Cathedral Grove from the East Coast past Cameron Lake, and you get into town. And you're going down the main drive, and that is Johnston Road, Highway 4, and that is North Alberni. So North Alberni is an area that was built primarily in the 50s and 60s, really sought after area. probably the most sought after area from that subdivision or development from that era. And people like it for a number of reasons. It just tends to be a little bit away from things. So, you're going to have really peaceful, quiet streets, the kind of place you might leave your doors unlocked, but you also have very quick access to the highway and the shopping at the Pacific Rim Shopping Center. That's upper North Alberni. Lower North Alberni, and we call upper and lower based on the train tracks. You'll see right here on the map, there's these train tracks, and they kind of cut through the whole town. Interestingly, the train tracks are the floodplain, roughly the floodplain divider. So everything in lower North Alberni is, west or below, downhill from there. And all of this is in the tsunami inundation zone and floodplains. So we did have a tsunami back in the 50s, and it did some damage. Of course, there's some mitigation work was done to waterways after that. We haven't had a tsunami since. It's the only one we've ever had, but it is important to know that that's a tsunami zone and a floodplain. Lower North Alberni tends to be smaller houses, generally speaking. Still a very good area, is very sought after, but smaller, more affordable houses. And it's probably primarily known for walkability. When you're down here in this area, you are within short walking distance to some great restaurants. You got Bare Bones, you got Alberni Brewing, you got Twin City, you got some other ones. But you also got the shopping, grocery store. It's just really, really walkable, all within, 5-minute walk from your house sort of thing. So very, very popular North Alberni, South Alberni. Price point, I would say upper North Alberni is upper mid-tier, like not really, really high end, but upper. And then lower South Alberni, or North Alberni is kind of mid-tier pricing. This one is upper North Alberni is serviced by John Howard Elementary School, which is really popular. People move to upper North Alberni specifically to get in that catchment area. And then lower North Alberni is serviced by Sumas Elementary School. Also prominent in lower North Alberni is the Somas River. So you'll see the Somas River and Kitsuxis creeks and the Kitsuxis Walkway, which is this trail that goes all around this creek. Very prominent in the lower part. So those are those two main areas. Now, down here, as you go along, this is called River Road, you go along the Somas River. All of this is still lower North Alberni until you get to this little development here. And you see this one on our site and you'll hear about it. It's Westport Place. Westport Place is a small development. This is it right here. It was developed in the 1990s. At that time, of course, they were brand new houses. And it tends to be, it's got a mix. It's got a condo building, it's got a townhouse building, but it's primarily single family houses, mostly ranchers, but there's also 2-story houses. And they tend to be in that kind of upper mid range as well. So quite good, nice and quiet area, sort of away from everything, close to the river. And again, Highway 4 access right into North Alberni and all those restaurants and shopping that we talked about. So moving from there, we're going to start heading south. So as you go south, I said that after Roger Creek, you were in Central Alberni, but Central Alberni actually has a few smaller neighborhoods that we want to talk about. So the first one right here, right up against Roger Creek, is the Glenwood area. The Glenwood area is everything north of Roger Street and south of Roger Creek. And it's predominantly, again, those 50s and 60s houses, almost exclusively 2-story houses. Really quite a popular area. Houses don't come up for sale very often there. There's light industrial in there, and when you drive through there, you might think this doesn't look like a great area, but it is very popular. And I believe the reason for that is it's really quiet. It's sort of tucked away. There's no through roads that go anywhere, really. If you're in that area, you're there for the neighborhood. And then the other reason would be close proximity to recreational facilities. So I'm just going to put layers on and show you. So this is Glenwood. We've got Bob Daly Stadium. We've got the Alberni Athletic Hall right here. We've got the Multiplex Ice Arena. We've got North Island College. This is the new high school, Echo ball fields, soccer fields, disc golf, Russell Field, and then the museum and the swimming pool are here. So all the recreational facilities that Port Alberni is famous for are all in that area. Next to Glenwood, when you go across Roger Street South, but still north of Redford Street right here, you got the Echo area. And the Echo area was built in the 50s and 60s as well. It was, without question, at that time, the prime location in town. And they're generally two-story houses. They're these houses that you see that generally have wood floors, plaster walls, and cove ceilings. Very common BC house, especially in the upper part, but the lower part as well. And really popular again for the same reason, walkability, access to recreational facilities, but you also have walking access to the shopping at Central Alberni on the 10th Avenue Plaza, which is grocery store, Save on Food, Shoppers Drug Mart, that sort of thing. I would say that Glenwood is mid price range, and so is Echo area. Glenwood's probably a little bit higher than the Echo area. The prices in the Echo area have slipped a little bit over the years, but still a good area. South of Redford, up in the Echo area, you have one more thing, which is College Estates, which was a subdivision built in the early 2000s, and it's up here at the top of Rogers Street. It's kind of two parts to it, really, but it was the College Estates part was built in the late 2000s. They were the executive homes at the time. Beautiful, beautiful houses built in the 2000s. High-end homes. Price point is still on the high end. Also known for, there's a couple of patio home complexes, which are pretty rare in Port Alberni, and they're both here. You have the McKnight Street one, and then the Huff Drive one. So popular with retirees. So now we're going to go to Central Alberni. So we're crossing Redford Street. So let me give you some context. We're crossing Redford Street, and we're in between Argyle Street, or rather Dry Creek, which is, we call it 10th Avenue Dip. When you're crossing 10th, you'll see this road goes down and back up. Locals call it the dip, and it's the Dry Creek Pass. And so everything in here is Central Alberni. Central Alberni is a wide range. You have the most affordable houses, probably the most problematic neighborhood at the bottom of Central Alberni. And then as you go up, the houses get more and more expensive as you get up the hill, because the whole Port Alberni is built west to east. So left of the screen to the right of your screen on a hill. The map doesn't show it, but it's a hill. And houses get more and more expensive as you go up. And Central Alberni is known because it's walkable, it's central, it's affordable. You have that shopping, Shoppers Drug Mart, all that stuff nearby, close access to the West Coast General Hospital. As you go up to the top, this is a big hill right here around 17th Avenue. You have this development, which is Redford Heights. It was built, I want to say around the time of Westport, I guess after Westport, so late 90s, early 2000s. And they were, again, executive homes at that time. Generally like that California stucco siding, two-story houses, some really large houses. And this is all forest back here. So some of these back onto Greenbelt. Very popular area. Again, sort of higher end. And then as you go further up Bird Street, you get to the Uplands, which is the Uplands is right here. This whole development right here. And the Uplands is the most recent development built in the Alberni Valley. It is the current executive homes built in Port Alberni. There's Uplands, Lower Uplands, or Uplands 1 and Uplands 2. All really one development at this point. Generally speaking, again, mostly ranchers, but also two-story houses, really, really nice houses, tend to be at a higher price point. So that is that. And then we're going to cross down south. We're going to cross Dry Creek, and we're coming down to this huge area, which is South Alberni. And South Alberni is the largest residential neighborhood. There's not a lot of commercial other than the downtown core, which I'll get into, but especially in the upper part, it's just, miles of houses. They were, again, built in the same time most of Port Alberni was, the 50s and the 60s, some 70s as well. And they tend to be like upper mid-end houses. And there's a whole range, but it's generally speaking two-story houses. There's ranchers too, of course. Down here, so this is Argyle Street. Argyle Street is one of the main thoroughfares. So 10th Avenue is a main thoroughfare that goes north to south. Argyle Street goes west to east, as does Rogers Street we talked about earlier. Argyle Street is sort of the famous old Port Alberni. And as you go down Argyle Street, you get to the Harbor Quay. And the Harbor Quay is our premier waterfront place in Port Alberni. Little shops and the world famous donut shop, and there's ice cream down there, and there's some good restaurants down there, some really good restaurants down there. It's just a really nice place. But this whole area in here where 3rd Avenue, which is another thoroughfare in Argyle meet, is the downtown core. We call it the Uptown, but it's the old downtown Port Alberni. It's the original commercial district. And so it's known for exactly that, old commercial buildings. Then below it, kind of all down South Alberni and below downtown, Second Avenue, First Avenue, Kingsway. These are a lot of the old character houses that are water view, and they're very popular now with people moving to the Alberni Valley because there's not a lot of water view houses in the Alberni Valley, strangely enough. Um, and a lot of them are there. So old character houses, from the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. So really, really cool stuff. Central South Alberni is really just known for being super peaceful, out of the way. To us in Port Alberni, it's a big drive to get into town. It's a 5-minute drive, right? But it's the most out of the way part. Um, Happens to be where I live, and I love it there. Now, to the very south here, across Ship Creek Road. So Ship Creek Road is getting pretty famous now because it's the road to Bamfield. And now that the road to Bamfield is paved, people are realizing that there's this incredible little village on the ocean down in Barkley Sound. But just south of that is Cameron Heights. Cameron Heights is a subdivision, a neighborhood built in the 70s. Um, Primarily, well, it's a mix of two-story and single-story houses. And it tends to be upper mid-range in terms of price point. So really, really predominantly known for being peaceful, out of the way, and lots of water views, particularly on Mallory Drive, Rita Road. Those are, and then Lower Cameron, those are where you're going to really get some spectacular water views. Within walking distance to John Douglas Park, which is also the Canal Waterfront Park, named after a former mayor who made it happen. So there's a nice little waterfront park accessible from there. So those are the neighborhoods of Port Alberni. Now I want to get into the neighborhoods, the rural areas. So let's start. I'm going to start with Cherry Creek because again, we came in on Highway 4. Cherry Creek is probably the most, not probably, it is the most sought after rural area in the Alberni Valley. Cherry Creek is the kind of place where you just get up in the morning and it's peaceful, the sun's shining, the butterflies are going by, the birds are chirping. You might hear a dirt bike rip down the road for a kid heading out to the forest. It's just good Vancouver Island living. The houses tend to be on large lots or small acreages, the 1 acre lot variety. And the houses, they vary, but they're tend to be higher end, more expensive homes. Not that they're modern and highly finished, just that the location is prime. And it's prime for a couple of reasons. You got lower taxes. You're right, a short little drive into town, and you're at the Pacific Rim Shopping Center. You got Walmart, Superstore, Canadian Tire, No Frills, Winners, a whole bunch of stuff down there. And then, of course, all the restaurants that North Alberni is famous for. It's just a short drive in from Cherry Creek. Beaver Creek is this long road. It basically starts in lower North Alberni and it goes all the way out past Stamp Falls Provincial Park. And it's just almost a straight line, and you can drive on it for about 15 minutes straight. And Beaver Creek is more of that mixture of rural where you can have small lots. You have manufactured homes out there. You can have some high-end like estates on 1 acre parcels. And then there's also a few really large acreages. So it's our real rural farming roots kind of area. Super, super popular too. Houses don't come up in the rural areas very much anymore. That's what people want nowadays, and they're holding on to them. So again, 15-minute drive isn't that far, and you're into town, but you're really in the country, which is nice. And then we cross over to south or Sprout Lake. Sprout Lake is world famous. It's one of two. It and Cowichan are the two premier warm water lakes on Vancouver Island. I would say it's the best. Maybe I'm biased, but Sprout Lake is pretty amazing. As you can see, it's made up of 4 arms, which it's famous for. Most of the residential is along this, basically right here and all around here. Most of the other part of the lake is relatively undeveloped. So waterfront homes, gorgeous. You're getting houses, single family houses on sort of 1/2 acre to 2 acre lots with, anywhere from 100 to 200 feet of waterfront. And they range, right now in price from 1.5 million to, sky's the limit. And just stunning, right? And then you have a lot of off-water properties too. And they are very comparable in price to what you'll get in Beaver Creek or Cherry Creek. And what's nice about Sprout Lake off-water properties is one, you might have a view of the lake. Some of them do, not a whole lot, but they all have neighborhood accesses nearby. So that's the law in BC. When there's a body of water, there has to be public access to it. But the public in general doesn't use these, just the neighborhood. So there's always within a short walking distance a little access to Sprout Lake where you can swim. Often neighbors get together, build a dock and put it there. So that's really nice. And then lastly, we have Central Lake, which is Great Central Lake, which is this huge lake. As you can see, it's bigger than Sprout Lake, only a single arm, but really, really long. And real estate wise, it's not super developed. It's got Trestle RV Park, which is really nice little RV park. And then it has a few waterfront homes along here and some leased mobile homes and then leased float homes. But really, really nice neighborhood as well. The other thing Central Lake neighborhood has is there's a farming district in here. So along this road that leads out to the lake is some farms. They tend to be on kind of medium-sized acreages. So that's pretty cool too. So that is my tour of Port Alberni neighborhoods. I hope that was helpful. Check out the blog. We have lots of articles on our website. You can click by neighborhood and start searching houses in each of those neighborhoods. Go to loyalhomes.ca or Google Loyal Homes Port Alberni neighborhoods. You'll find that article. And of course, if you have any questions about real estate or questions about neighborhoods, we would love to chat. You can call us anytime, 250-723-8786. I'm Chris Fenton. Thanks for watching this Port Alberni neighborhood tour.